Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Homestand Show, the first edition of the Homestand Show. I'm Albert Vartanian, joined by my co-host today, James Sharman, and just in case you were living under a rock, Ryan O'Reilly to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Kyle Dubas making a massive trade. Friday night at 11 p.m., Leafs Nation found out Ryan O'Reilly from the Blues to the Toronto Maple Leafs, coming with Noel Acciari as well. St. Louis getting a first, a third in 2023, a second in 2024, and holding on to 50% of Ryan O'Reilly's salary. Minnesota also involved in that three-team trade. They're getting a fourth in 2025, but the big news here, 25% retention. So Leafs only paying 25% of Ryan O'Reilly's salary. When you first heard this trade Friday night, what was your initial reaction?
Or Saturday morning.
Yes.
See, 10:52 this thing happened, right? 10:52, and you know, I work for Homestand, so therefore I turn my phone off at like 9 o'clock, otherwise I get text throughout the entire night from my boss. So that's turned off. So I wake up on Saturday morning, can put the coffee on, settle down for Aston Villa against Arsenal, you know, nice match, put the phone on, and oh, big Leaf deal. It was actually quite exciting because I love a good blockbuster.
Right.
And this has been rumored for some time, of course. They need a forward in the top six. They need center depth. They got both those. Of course, Acciari can play center, third or fourth line as well. And I thought it was a really good deal. Yes, it was pricey, but all these Leaf fans saying, oh, it's 4 picks. We can't be giving up 4 picks. Who cares? You know, the cap's not going up anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
These players are coming down to the last years of their contracts. This is the time to go all in this year and next year. So I see why Dubas did it. I think it's a smart move.
Yeah, and I should mention, a pair of AHLers going the other way for the Leafs to St. Louis. I mean, this is something that they needed to do. I think for the Leafs, if you have a window to win the Stanley Cup and you have a team that you believe that can do that, and you have a GM who knows that his job is on the line, this is a move you have to make.
And didn't people say like that the draft is like the mystery box? You don't know what you're getting there.
It's true, right.
And nowadays you can get guys on waivers, you can sign free agents, you can address that. Obviously you want to have good draft currency available to you. We understand that. You can't just build through free agency. I think Cliff Fletcher once said many years ago, draft schmaft, and he was ridiculed forever for that. But you had to address the needs right now. This is a really, really good team once again, who, as you know, can't get over the hump. So how do you get over the hump? You try and find players that have done it before, that are known for being competitors when it matters in the playoffs. And Ryan O'Reilly is over a point a game in the playoffs. Acciari, as the Leafs saw firsthand against Boston for a couple of years, does the business in that third or fourth line. Now they got some snarl, they got some edge, and they got some genuine class in the top two lines. If that's where he plays, he might play third line center at some point. We're going to find out all the experimentation from Sheldon Keefe the next few weeks. But yeah, I thought a deal that had to be made, and I give Dubas credit for it.
Yeah, O'Reilly not having the greatest season, 12 goals, 20 points through 42 games. But this is about the playoffs. I mean, as you mentioned, Conn Smythe Trophy winner, 49 points in 51 career playoff games. I don't remember the last time the Leafs had a Conn Smythe winner on their team who can play at that level, who, by the way, did a great job in that final for St. Louis against the Boston Bruins, a team the Leafs will probably have to play if they want to make the Stanley Cup final. Here is Ryan O'Reilly after his debut against the Montreal.
Yeah, you could tell just the energy in the room and in between periods, the way guys are, and you know, the focus and the detail they put in. You just tell it's, you know, they're trying to win, and it's something to be, you know, for myself it's fun to be a part of. Just that mindset, and you can see it's just a collective group, and obviously there's tons of work that has to happen still, but you know, it's just you know, rejuvenating to kind of just be around that kind of energy and such.
Why is that important?
Yeah, that's good to hear from Ryan O'Reilly, you know, a Stanley Cup winner coming to a team who he believes can win.
There's no doubt that in the playoffs, this team, as well as they played last time out against Tampa, and they did play very well. They could have won that series, we know that, but they do grip their sticks a little bit tighter. We know that. You need experience. It does count at that level. A guy that's captained teams as well, being on, you know, long playoff runs. You mentioned the Conn Smythe there. He's won a cup. It's absolutely critical, and if it allows other players to move down the lineup when perhaps they shouldn't be playing where they are, like Youngcrop, for example. Is he really a second line left winger? I'm not sure he is, but he's definitely a third line left winger, which improves the bottom two lines straight away. So by bringing in these two players, yes, you address your need up top, but you also improve, I think, the entire 12-man unit.
Yeah, absolutely. And Keefe was saying today to John Tavares, essentially, I'm paraphrasing, but get used to playing on the wing.
On the wing, yeah.
With Ryan O'Reilly, which I'm not sure how I feel about. I think down the middle, you want to split those guys up. But, I mean, Keefe is in that position to make those calls.
Are you better off having, Matthews, Tavares, O'Reilly, then Canfor-Achari. I mean, that's great strength down the middle there. But at the same time, you're better off having O'Reilly second-line center, putting Tavares on the left wing beside him, because Tavares, great career, really, really great player, really important for this team, but defensively, he's not very good. And you can't roll just 2 lines in the playoffs. You need 3 lines as well, which allows you to strengthen that third line. Yeah. So I like O'Reilly at second-line center personally, and that's nothing against JT. Good captain, good player, right? But as we've seen in the last couple of years, you know, he is in some decline at the moment, and defensively, he just isn't, I don't think, where he should be.
Yeah, and obviously O'Reilly and Achari, to get up to speed, you got to think, they flew in to Montreal to take on the Canadiens.
Of course they did. Hockey Night in Canada, Montreal.
They were adamant to play. They played. Then they got on a flight to go to Chicago to play against the Blackhawks. It's been a quick, you know what, 48, 72 hours for these guys? Like, it's a lot to take in.
It is, but I wonder also, because both these players have been traded before. You know, it's not like some of these players arrive and you must acclimatize. It takes a while to get used to new surroundings. I think O'Reilly's done it before. Chari's done it before. Yeah. They know what it takes. It seems to be a pretty welcoming room as well, and they know what they have there. So, but you're right, it's been a whirlwind for them for sure. I mean, people forget that these are human beings too, right? You got family to take considerations as well, and you're rolling. They said to Montreal, Chicago, and now you're playing tonight again. So, yeah, hectic to say very least, but hey, in at the deep end, right?
Yeah, and the Leafs got a good deal on him. Listen, if there's 2 other teams who are willing to take on his salary and they're only paying 1.8, just above 1.8 on the cap, it's a pretty good deal. It's interesting, though. He's a pending, Ryan O'Reilly is a pending UFA. So you can consider him some sort of a rental. And here's what Dubas had to say prior to the Ryan O'Reilly trade.
I think at every single trade discussion that we have, we're at the part and where we're at as a franchise where you can't necessarily say no to anything right off the hop. Having said that, there are some players and some draft pick capital that we have that are extremely valuable that would be hard pressed to move on from. You know, not just the one player you mentioned, but a whole group of prospects or younger players off our roster. So, you know, I think in regards to rentals, I can't see that happening. But with regards to other options, I don't think you say no off the hop to anything. But those are very important pieces to us for now and in the future.
So everyone's kind of picking on Dubas for this clip because he said he wouldn't go in for rentals, and now here we are. And the way I see it, listen, if an opportunity arises to bring in this type of player, you might have to go back on what you said and be like, well, you know what? This opportunity came up. I needed to make this move.
He's also a rental, by the way, right? He's out of contract end of this season.
Very true.
He might not have been around to answer those questions. So he knows what it means and how they must get results right now. Listen, I'm all in. If I understand why he said that, maybe it's just a bit of posturing, perhaps. You know, trying to convince other GMs that he's not going to be an easy negotiation. And listen, with Ryan O'Reilly, he's a local boy. Why can't they re-sign him? I don't think he'll be a big hometown discount like some people are saying, like Giordano.
No,
he's 32, right? He's not 37, 38. But if you can get him for $4 or $5 million, Kerfoot's off the books next year. Bunting is a free agent as well. There is money to be used next summer if you can find creative ways. But listen, we're a long way from that. A good playoff run will make that a lot easier, those negotiations.
Yeah, and at the moment, their deadline cap space, according to Cap Friendly, 4.42. And that has a lot to do with Matt Murray being put on the long-term IR. So my question to you, James, is Kyle Dubas, I'm going to assume that the Maple Leafs are going to make another move.
Yes. Well,
what's that move?
They have cap space. If they have cap space, then they have to make another move.
What's the priority position?
Well, is it defense or is it another forward? Elliot Friedman was saying that they were in for Barbashev from St. Louis as well. Didn't work out in the end, but that suggests that they're also eyeing another forward. Defensively, depth is a key right now, but can you get an impact defenseman with what they have available in the cap? I'm not sure they can. Do you go for another depth defenseman, a Luke Shen type? Is he better than Jordy Ben? Is he better than Victor Mete when he comes back? I'm not entirely sure, but they'll address something for sure. Maybe it's another forward, another defenseman. Maybe it's a goaltender. What do you think? If Matt Murray's not healthy, can you rely on Samsonov?
Yeah. And if Dubas wanted to go with a tandem, right now it's not really working out. I think they probably need a goalie, but there's a lot of moves that still can be made. Who knows? I mean, people are even throwing out Patrick Kane out there. They're like, hey, maybe Dubas is on the phone calling Minnesota to take on 25% of his salary. But a lot could happen from now until the trade deadline. We'll talk more about the Leafs in the next block. Justin Pooney's going to join us, and we'll talk some NBA as well. A lot of movement going on in the association. All right, welcome back to the Homestand Show. It's Albert Vartanian, James Sharman. We're now joined by our main man, our resident Vancouver Canuck fan.
Oh, thanks for the shout.
Justin Pooney. We were just talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs trades they should make and Kyle Dubas and what he should do next, as bringing in Ryan O'Reilly was a big move.
Yeah.
But what's the next move for the Toronto?
I heard you talk about bringing Patty Kane into town. I don't think that's going to happen now. They kind of depleted the
He's
assets.
probably
But
dead.
we were talking about earlier today, I think a goalie, right? I think the Leafs need to look at a
think so,
goalie
too.
because can you really trust Matt Murray and his health? Can you trust Ilya Samsonov in the playoffs? I have no idea. So perhaps there's a goalie, maybe a backup goalie, just to add some depth there, because when you go up against the likes of Linus Ullmark in Boston, Andrei Vasilevsky, of course, in Tampa, you're going to need a guy to potentially steal you a game or two, or even just a period or two in the playoffs. And that could be the deciding factor whether you get over that first round hump or you go home in the first round once again.
Well, Big Save Dave was a huge signing, was it last year, a year before? How that worked out? Yeah, oh my God, come on. Yeah, Justin Wall's been great so far.
Yeah.
He could be the solution to all that ails him. But yeah, listen, they'll spend that cap space somewhere. Maybe some more snarl in that defense would be handy. I'm not sure, but
The Muzzin replacement.
Yeah, exactly. Well, replacement. I mean, I'm not sure you can replace him.
And we know also, to piggyback off that, with the NHL Trade Deadline, defensemen are such at a premium price. So what are you going to have to give up to get a top 6 defenseman? Because there's such a hot commodity at that time of year where teams want to have like 7, 8 defensemen that are NHL defensemen ready, because you never know what happens. So you're going to have to pay a steep price for a defenseman. I don't know what Kyle Dubas really has left to offer to teams to acquire that top 6 defenseman.
A couple of goaltending names being thrown out there. Sorry, James. Craig Anderson at $1.5 million. James Reimer, we know well, 2.25. Jonas Korpisalo, 1.3. Are those guys that, in a tandem, maybe, if that's the way you want to go?
When Dubas signed Murray, though, and Samsonov, they were his pair for the playoffs.
Yes.
You knew it then. Now, at the time, the question was Murray's health, and guess what? He's not consistent, right, or reliable, right? So nothing's really changed. I think Dubas has complete faith in these guys. I don't think he'll address the goaltending. I think he'll go for a defenseman or maybe another forward.
Yeah.
I think he put his cards out last summer on those 2 goaltenders, and he's going to stick with them.
And so far, it's worked to a certain extent, right? And I mean, when you're looking at goalies, I know those guys I just named are kind of budget goaltenders right now. You're not going to go out and get a Vasilevsky type. It's not going to happen.
They're not out there. They're not out there.
You got to go
exactly.
You got to go with what you have, and Ilya Samsonov is one of those goalies that they do have right now. He's playing pretty well. He had an issue though. Against Chicago, his bowels weren't cooperating. Here's what he had to say about his performance after the Blackhawks game on Saturday.
You were a little bit sick, I think, going into the break too, right? So was it the same thing or something completely?
No. In this break, I got some cough.
Right.
Right now, like more stomach and sick.
Right.
It's not great.
Gotcha.
It's hard day. And
Not a great day on the toilet.
I love it. He's box office, that guy,
I love
right?
it.
He's
Yeah.
really good. There's so few personalities in hockey. He's one of them, I think.
Okay, so they got the Sabres tonight in Buffalo. Sabres. Leafs favorite, -178. The Sabres are home dogs. They've won 3 of 5 against the Leafs, Justin. I mean, the Leafs have been pretty good against teams above 500, which the Sabres are, and they're pushing for a spot in the wild card. For some reason, though, I'm leaning Sabres here tonight.
I would lean Sabres too, because like you said, they play Toronto hard, but also they have a guy like Tage Thompson, who's a box office player, and he's been playing great this season. He's top 10 in points. That's a guy I'm looking for tonight. And also, Buffalo gets up to play Toronto, especially in Buffalo when all those Maple Leaf fans make the trek down. So I expect it to be a close game, and I think Buffalo actually has a chance to pull off a home upset against the Leafs tonight because they're not playing that bad. And like you said, they're pushing for a playoff spot.
The other home dog, right? They score lots of goals, good offense, but defensively they're pretty poor. Expect goals, take the over in this one.
Yeah.
But I can't go against the Leafs. Listen, they're coming off a pretty poor performance yesterday against Chicago.
Yeah.
They generally bounce back, so I'm going for the road win.
Yeah, the Sabres 4 points out of a wild card. The Leafs got a lot to play for too. If they really want that home ice, they're going to be playing Tampa Bay. So you got to win these games, especially with Tampa aren't playing. Okay, so to the NBA. Lots happening, Justin.
Yes.
Let's start with Russell Westbrook. He's set to sign with the Los Angeles Clippers for the rest of the season after negotiating a buyout with the Utah Jazz. A lot being talked about here, whether he's the right fit or not. But regardless, you're getting a former MVP and a guy who can slot into your starting 5.
You're getting an all-time 75 top player in NBA history, a former MVP. And he's got history with Paul George. Of course, they played together in Oklahoma City for a couple of years. They didn't have the playoff success, but they had a bunch of regular season success. And I think the key that nobody's really talking about with the Clippers is who's their coach, Ty Lue. And I think Ty Lue is, if not the best, one of the best coaches in the entire association, and he will find a way to get Russell Westbrook, excuse me, the best out of him. And also, you're going to get a highly motivated Russell Westbrook, who basically got kicked to the curb by the Los Angeles Lakers. He stays in the same building, goes to the Clippers, and I think you're going to get a guy who, you know, everybody likes to bash on him, and he was the easy scapegoat with the Lakers, but he swallowed his pride, swallowed his ego, came off the bench, was in Sixth Man of the Year conversations, and now he's going to be starting with the Clippers. I think it's a great pickup for the Los Angeles Clippers.
Prior to this move, Paul George was asked at Media Day for the All-Star Game, essentially, besides yourself, who do you think in the league deserves to win a ring? And this is what he had to say.
Outside of myself, probably Russ. I think, you know, just as much as he's been through, as much, you know, they paint the picture of him. He is absolutely one of the best dudes, one of the best people in the league, and you know, it'd be nice to see him get decorated.
Tampering, James. Tampering.
You know, one of the best people in the league, right? And maybe he is, right? I don't know, but I got a great quote here from Bill Plaschke of the LA Times talking about his time at the Lakers. He goes, "You may recall the bricks, the bull hogging, the sulness, the selfishness, the complete lack of self-awareness from a bitter former MVP flailing against the declining skills. The Clippers apparently had no idea. Westbrook was happy after losses when he played well, dour after wins when he was ignored, and divisive in a locker room that was roiled by his tension. The Clippers have not noticed." I love that. Yeah. I don't know if it's true or not, but there's probably a lot to it. So he may not be the best teammate in the world. Let's be honest here. I mean, that's a contending team. I know Kawhi and Paul George love him. Yeah. But they brought him here, right? Because once again, player power.
Yes,
forget the GM. We'll see a lot riding on this.
I think, again, with Russell Westbrook, it's easy to point the finger at him because with the Lakers, LeBron's kind of a Teflon Don. He will not get any blame whatsoever. Anthony Davis has his own issues, so he was never available to Anthony Davis. So it's easy to point the finger at a guy like Russell Westbrook, who best ability is availability. He's there every game. You can never question his heart or anything like that. And I think he just became the scapegoat in LA. But I really want to see him play well with the Clippers. I think he's a Hall of Fame legacy player, and I want to see him kind of resurrect his career and kind of, you know, turn those people that talked bad on him the other way around. But
yeah, I mean, listen, Kawhi, Paul George, Russell Westbrook, Terrence Mann, Norman Powell. That's a very good team. That can really work there. Let's talk about another player who used to play for the Clippers, Patrick Beverly, making his move. He's going to the Chicago Bulls. He has a podcast called the Pat Bev Pod. And listen, if you're into the NBA, you need to listen to this podcast. He took to his podcast today to talk about his move to Chicago, and there was another team actually in play.
It was between Golden State and the Bulls. And, I mean, the Bulls have been after me for the last couple of years. I with Billy Donovan. I really do. I like his structure. I like how he goes about things. So I couldn't kind of say no to that. Obviously, you know, it's always good to play with a lot of great talent in Golden State, but you know, it's a lot of guards over there, you know. So I figured, you know, I can make a playoff push with the Bulls right now and kind of, you know, pump them up a little bit. The East kind of weak. You feel me? You know, not to disrespect anybody from the East, but, you know, a lot of people went to the West, so I'm excited, man. I'm excited.
Man, that's something. Turning down the Warriors for the Bulls because he believes that the East is weak, Justin.
Patrick Beverly makes me laugh, man.
I love Patrick Beverly.
He's I wish everybody had as much confidence in whatever they do like Patrick Beverly, because we all know he's not the best on court, but the thing I like with the Bulls is this. In a playoff series or in a play-in situation, he can really get in the opponent's head and get them off their game. He got Kevin Durant off his game at one point in time, right? So he's another veteran guy, been on the block. The Bulls need help in their guard position with now Lonzo Ball out for the rest of the season. So it made the most sense. I don't think he would have fit well with Golden State anyway.
Okay, quickly, I really want to touch on the NBA All-Star Game. I know it happened this past weekend, but we had the weekend off. It was family day here, so we get to talk about it today on a Tuesday. Mike Malone, who was involved in this All-Star Game, had this to say after what he thought was a lackluster NBA All-Star Game.
You know, it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be a part of a great weekend, great players, but that is the worst basketball game ever played.
How do you fix it?
I don't know if you can fix it. I mean, I give Joel Embiid Kyrie Irving, those guys were like competing. Terrell was imploring some of the guys to play harder, to try to get some defense in, but no one got hurt. They put on a show for the fans, but that is a tough game to sit through, I'm not going to lie.
Listen, the All-Star game in any sport, it is what it is. But when you go to the NBA All-Star game, you have a draft, you have a Post Malone concert, you have really long national anthems, then you got the game, then halftime show. It doesn't really set itself up to be a competitive game because I don't think players can get into that headspace, James.
Well, no, of course, it's mid-season. I mean, listen, when I was a kid, I loved All-Star games, right? Because you saw these comic book heroes all get together on the court or the ice or the field and play. It was great, but then you grow up and you realize what sport's about, and it's a complete contrived piece of crap. It's completely pointless. And we're seeing, LeBron hurting his hand, some important players risking their health in big seasons.
Yeah.
It's completely pointless. I understand why they do it. It's about money. There's better ways. Name an all-star team. Why not do that for sure? And then when the cup finals come around or the championship finals come around, have a festival around those games that doesn't include an all-star game per se. That's what I do. I think it's completely and utterly pointless.
In 10 seconds or less, give me your opinion on the All-Star
I agree with
game.
everything James is saying. The All-Star game is for money and kids, and quite frankly, the players will not care, especially if it's in a city like Salt Lake City, where Shaq said that's the most he's ever eaten room service on an entire weekend. So
listen, I feel like I'm the only one, but I actually enjoyed that All-Star game. When do you ever get to see professional players play a pickup game? I don't get to see that.
Why would you bother? Why do you
I want to see it. Would I pay for it? Probably not. But anyway, that's the end of the show. All-Star games, not for James, for me, and maybe Justin Pooney. That's it for the Homestand Show. Stay tuned for more tomorrow.